Hey everybody, this is Pastor Shaun Blakeney, and welcome to the Pastor's Playbook. This is your go-to resource for leading with faith and focus. Each week we're going to uncover practical strategies, biblical insights, and inspiring stories to help pastors and ministry leaders stay on course, build stronger teams, and make a lasting impact for the kingdom of God. Whether you're in the huddle or on the front lines, this is your playbook for effective, faith-filled leadership. Now let's jump in and open up today's playbook. Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Playbook. We're so glad you're with us today, and I hope you're enjoying this podcast. We're unpacking some of the leadership principles of ministry, of life. Doesn't matter who you are or where you are on your spiritual journey. We've all got leadership inside of us. We got to capitalize on the momentum of our leadership. And we've been unpacking these different principles and lessons. And I was just telling the team that a lot of the lessons that I'm teaching on through the Pastor's podcast, this Pastor's Playbook podcast, is really stuff I'm learning, stuff over the 30 plus years of ministry in my life that I'm learning how to do even better than I did before. And same thing with you. As a leader, you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always maturing. So I hope you're taking copious notes on all the things we're talking about, because these might not be things that right now you're dealing with, but as you continue to develop in leadership in life, you want to go back to these things and figure out, what am I struggling with, and do these things really have some help in my life? And I talked last podcast about self-leadership, self-help, really loving yourself, putting your mask on first before you put on the masks of others. You're really not going to be good for anybody if you're pouring your life always out of an empty pitcher. You need to be full. And I talked a couple weeks ago about how to create expectations and cultivate a DNA or a culture in your staff or on your team, whatever the case may be, of expectations. It's going to be hard for teams to live out the expectations you have if you've never shared the expectations that you have. But what I want to dial in on today is, how do you give accountability to the expectations you've given to your team? I think a lot of us live in this world that we just want to say something one time and just hope and pray, fingers crossed, it gets done. But that's not the way it happens. We've got to give some accountability to people when it comes to the expectations that we've given them to develop out a ministry, to lead in some capacity, to do some kind of a project. You got to have accountability in those expectations to make sure those expectations are being met. So here's what I want to talk about today. What you inspect, you impact. What you inspect, you impact. Creating a culture of accountability that people actually appreciate. Listen, this is one of those things that, man, I feel like for our team, when I give expectations, I know there's a handful of people on the team that when I ask them to do something, it's going to be done. I've learned those on our team that when I give expectations, I may have to follow up and give some accountability, because I need to help guide them through the process for the expectations that I want. And so how do we give accountability for those expectations? There's an old leadership principle that I just had read it in a book just a few weeks ago, and it came to my mind again. It says, what you expect gets started, but what you inspect gets sustained. What you expect gets started, but what you inspect gets sustained. Because once expectations are clear, then there's another level of responsibility as a leader that we need to give to our team to live out and implement the expectations, and that is through accountability. For some reason, I think accountability has become a negative word in our culture. I think as soon as you hear the word accountability, you get a little anxious, right? You get a little fearful, like, oh my gosh, accountability. People hear accountability and they immediately think, I'm in trouble, I'm being watched, they don't trust me, they don't value me. Do they really know what I'm doing? And biblical accountability isn't about catching people doing something wrong. Biblical accountability is about helping people succeed in what they've been called to do. And I think a lot of times the people that don't like accountability aren't living to the expectations they should be. I think that when you receive accountability, it lets people know I'm responsible enough to have the accountability to meet the expectations I've been given. And I've learned something over the years. The best teams don't resent accountability, they actually appreciate it. Does your team, do your leaders, those that are working under you, working for you, working with you, do they appreciate accountability? Because accountability communicates something powerful. It says, I care too much about your potential to let you settle for less. Let me be completely honest with you. In my 30 plus years of ministry, there's been team members that I've had on my team that I've tried to give accountability to, I've tried to give expectations to, follow up with the accountability, and they have not wanted the accountability. And eventually, I start giving the accountability. So if you're a team member, and I've told our team members this before, if you're on my team and I'm giving you accountability, that means I believe in you and I believe in the potential you have to accomplish the mission. When I stop connecting with you and I stop giving you accountability, that means I'm probably done talking to you. That's when you should get fearful. Not when I give you accountability, but when I stop giving it to you, that's when you should probably start going, man, there might be an issue, because we need to be able to appreciate accountability. Hebrews in the New Testament, the writer Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. How we spur, how we push them. That's through accountability. How are we going to grow in Christ? We're going to be accountable, right? I want to be accountable to the Holy Spirit. Notice the language, right? Spur one another on. That means God never intended us to grow alone. We need those people. Why is it better to work out in the gym with another person? Because they can help you lift a weight you could never lift on your own. They're helping you. They're pushing you. When you want to give up at set 6, when you've got 4 more to go, they're going to go, come on, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's that accountability that you need to grow, because growth happens in environments where people lovingly challenge one another to become better. That's what we need. I think we're missing more accountability in our culture today because people don't want to be accountable. And no accountability creates a lazy spirit. So today I want to give you 6 principles on creating accountability that strengthens your team and doesn't discourage your team. There's a way to do it. There's a way to offer accountability that doesn't discourage your team, but does encourage your team. Because accountability isn't about control. It's about stewardship. So let's talk about accountability. How do you bring accountability that's appreciated and not resented to your team? Principle number 1, inspection isn't distrust. Inspection is actually good leadership. I say inspection, that's accountability. It's the follow-up to the expectations that you've given. You're inspecting the work of your team, inspecting the work of a teammate, inspecting the work of someone that's working in the dynamics or the context of your team. You oversee them. You've given them an expectation. You're going to inspect what they've done. And that's just good leadership. Luke chapter 16, verse 10, Jesus said, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And how do you know if you can be trusted with much? Jesus is inspecting. He's giving accountability to the fact that, did you manage the little? If you manage the little, now I can give you a lot. Here's a quick leadership insight I was processing yesterday. One of the greatest misconceptions in leadership is believing that checking in means you don't trust your team. That is one of the biggest misconceptions of, I think, teams today, where your team feels like if you're checking in with me, then you don't trust me. And I don't believe that. I actually believe that healthy accountability communicates value. I'm checking in on you because I believe in you enough to make sure that you're doing the right job, right? Nobody questions why a pilot uses a checklist before a flight. Nobody criticizes a surgeon for double checking the procedures before the surgery. Nobody questions a professional inspecting something that matters. No one questions a contractor inspecting his work. Why? Because you want the job done well. Leadership should be no different. People rarely drift toward excellence. They drift towards convenience. And what accountability does is it helps call people on your team to the excellence you expect from them. I think accountability keeps excellence in front of your people. It's letting them know that I've given you an expectation. I want the job to be done, and we're not going to give mediocrity to the job. We're giving excellence to the job. See, trust doesn't eliminate accountability. Trust strengthens accountability. Inspection doesn't mean I'm suspicious of you. It means I'm stewarding you. And that's the thing for me as a boss, for me as a leader, man, the team I have working for me, God's entrusted that team for me, and I got to steward that team well. Let's go back to what Jesus said in Luke, man, can I trust you with a little? I can't grow your team if you can't develop the one that you already have, right? Think about a gardener. When I was a kid, we had a garden. I was in middle school. We lived down in Indiana. We had some friends that had some land, and my mom and dad went out. We tilled the land. We had beans and corn and tomatoes, and every day after school, my sister and I would go with my mom and my dad. We would weed, we would water, we would take care of the plants, right? And it wasn't like we just planted the garden and then washed our hands of it and said, okay, let's see what happens. You had to weed it. You had to water it. You had to take care of it. This was an ongoing process. And healthy teams require ongoing attention. They require ongoing attention. Just like the garden that you planted requires ongoing attention, the team that you've planted requires ongoing attention, right? Ask yourself, am I assuming everything is going well, or am I intentionally following up? Take that on as a leader, man. Am I assuming everything's going okay? I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to guess, fingers crossed, everything's going well. Or am I going to intentionally follow up with my team? Because I believe leaders who don't follow up eventually fall behind. Leaders that don't follow up eventually fall behind. And you can't blame a team for not doing what you've asked when you don't give accountability to follow up with what you've asked. So that's principle number one. Principle number two in having accountability on your team where it's appreciated is accountability without relationship feels like policing. Accountability without relationship feels like policing. 1 Thessalonians, Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 8, because we loved you so much. Now, when Paul is writing to the church in Thessalonica, Paul is giving them correction. He's giving them accountability. But what he's saying with the accountability and the correction is, I'm giving you the accountability and the correction because I love you. I've spoken life into you, and because I've spoken life into you, I can speak love into you. And I think that a lot of times the reasons why our teams have a hard time with accountability is because you haven't built a relationship with your team to give accountability. Paul corrected people. Paul challenged people. He held churches accountable. But first, he loved them, and they knew that he loved them. I truly believe in my life, communication is better received when it's from a person that you know loves you. It's really difficult to get accountability from a person that you know is not in your corner. It makes the difference to have accountability from a person that you know validates you, loves you, appreciates you. So be that leader that's loving on your team. So when you correct your team, they appreciate the correction and the accountability more than someone that doesn't have a relationship with them. See, people receive correction best from leaders who've already invested in the connection. Correction without relationship creates resistance. I've seen it happen in my life. I've had bosses that have not had a relationship with me want to give me accountability. And it creates resentment. It creates resistance. But relationship turns correction into coaching. There's correcting somebody and there's coaching somebody. In my mind, correction is speaking down to, coaching is calling you up to. And people don't resist accountability. I believe they resist feeling unknown. And if you can validate that relationship, I think people truly can connect with the accountability. See, connection gives correction credibility. And people receive hard truth from leaders they know genuinely care. I've got a trainer, Danae, and I've been working with Danae for almost 4 years now. And every Friday I have weigh-in. I've got pictures. I've got all these things that I'm doing for Danae. The reason why I've got weigh-in, I've got pictures, I've got my diet built out is because she's got to see every single Friday, am I doing what she's telling me to do? Because if I'm not working hard, then what she's doing is just it's not valuable, right? It's not valuable for her, not valuable for me. And so the weigh-in, the pictures, all of that is saying to my coach and to my trainer, I'm listening to you, I'm doing what you say. And because I have a relationship with her, I trust her to be able to develop me out the way I need to be developed out, right? You hire people on your team because you want to push them farther than they've ever been pushed before. not because you can't stand them, but because you believe in them. You see the potential. And challenge only works when you've got a relationship that exists. So don't wait until something goes wrong to have conversations with somebody. Build relationships before they need the correction. And then it's easier to speak into somebody you build a relationship with. Here's the third principle in regards to having this accountability your team appreciates and doesn't resent. Principle number 3, accountability should create growth, not fear. Accountability should create growth, not fear. Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15, he says, speak the truth in love. Speak the truth in love. The goal isn't to catch mistakes. The goal is to develop people. And if you're only being accountable to your team or making your team accountable to you just to catch them in wrongdoing, then you're going about it the wrong way. It shouldn't create fear in your team. It should create growth in your team. It should create a spirit of excellence in your team. If every accountability conversation ends in embarrassment, people are going to stop taking risks for you. If every conversation ends with coaching from you, then people keep growing from you. And that's the mindset we've got to have when it comes to accountability. I believe the healthiest teams don't hide failure, they learn from it. I was just saying right before the podcast, my personality has always been my whole life, if I make a mistake, I'm owning up to the mistake. And so don't hide the failure. Don't hide the mistake. Learn from it. The reason why I've always been a person to admit a mistake I made or a fault that I have is because I want to grow. I don't want to hide it. I don't want to bury it under the bed, bury it under the rug. I want to grow and develop from the mistake that I made. But I need someone speaking into me to let me know, man, did you make a mistake here? Yeah, I did. Okay, so case in point, moving forward, let's learn from that. Let's not do that again. We don't want to continue to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over, because what happens is you get comfortable in mistake making. I don't want to get comfortable in failure. I want to become comfortable in excellence. And so the healthiest teams don't hide failure. They learn from it. See, I believe great accountability asks, what did we learn, before it asks, who do I blame? And I think we need to learn and take on that education of learning for ourselves and go, man, I did drop the ball there. How can I learn from that? And I'm so thankful you pointed it out to me, because correction should produce confidence, not shame. Because I want the team to do better, and they want to do better. Listen, look what Jesus did. Jesus spoke life into his disciples, but he also spoke truth into his disciples. When Peter denied Christ 3 times, what did he do? He restored Peter, right? He didn't just ignore the failure. He talked about the failure. He addressed it, but then he restored Peter. And I believe that restoration through accountability is accountability with grace. We got to be grace-filled. Ask yourself, man, have I made some mistakes lately? How can I learn from those mistakes? Ask your team, have you made some mistakes? What have you learned from the mistakes that you made? Who's responsible? And these are ways to get people to start forward thinking, owning the mistake, but having accountability to grow from it. Here's principle number 4. Principle number 4 when it comes to us having accountability our teams appreciate and don't resent is what gets measured gets improved. What gets measured gets improved. Let's say that we have an event at church, and we're planning for 150 people at this event. And let's say 50 people show up. Man, am I disappointed? Well, I'm grateful for the 50 that showed up, but I am disappointed we're missing 100 people. Now, I've got to ask the team, what did we not do to get the 150? I can't just go, man, because sometimes what people will do go, man, we had 50 people. That's great. It's great, but why didn't we have 150 people? And I think that's where us as teams need to have accountability to measure what needs to be improved. Yes, it was a great event, but why didn't we get the 100, the extra 100? Was it something we did? Did we lack communication? Did we lack social media invitation? Did we lack asking volunteers? Like what can we own on our end? I'm not going to make excuses for what didn't happen, but what can we do to strive for excellence in making sure it happens next time? Proverbs in the Old Testament, Proverbs 27:23 says, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. What Solomon is telling his people here is pay attention. Know what's happening on your teams. Don't lead from assumptions. Lead from expectations, right? Lead from accountability. Measure what matters, because healthy organizations measure through follow-up, through attendance, through volunteer development, through spiritual growth, leadership pipelines, financial stewardship, communication, timelines. I don't measure every Sunday based on attendance, but it is a viable goal to look at a way of growth. And I want to know, as a church, are we growing? Yes, we're growing in discipleship. Yes, we're growing in finances, but are we growing in attendance? Why? Because healthy things grow. Not because numbers are everything, but because numbers reveal stories. Numbers reveal things that are hidden. And so are we doing the best we can to accomplish what we need to accomplish? You can't improve what you refuse to evaluate. You've got to evaluate it. Hope is not a leadership strategy. Healthy leaders measure because healthy leaders care. Imagine trying to lose weight, and you've been trying to lose weight for 6 months, but you've never once stepped on a scale. How are you going to know? I think I look skinnier. I think I've lost weight. Man, I want to step on a scale every single day to see if I'm hitting my target goal for losing weight. You're not going to step on a goal and go, well, I just don't want to evaluate this. It's the true way to evaluate if you've lost weight, right? And so you may be working hard to lose weight, but how are you going to know if you lost weight? Because you got to step on a scale and measure yourself. Measurements create awareness, and awareness creates improvement. So ask yourself, what are we measuring right now that reflects our mission? Because if you're not measuring anything, if you're not holding teams accountable for measuring things, then they're never going to improve. Principle number 5, 2 more. Principle number 5, when it comes to accountability for the team to appreciate and not resent. Principle number 5, accountability starts with the leader. Accountability starts with the leader. Matthew chapter 7, Jesus says, first remove the plank from your own eye. Before I'm getting the speck out of your eye, I'm getting the plank out of my own eye. Nothing destroys accountability faster in leadership than hypocrisy. If you're asking your team to do something you're not willing to do, that's hypocrisy. You can't ask your team to be accountable to something you yourself aren't accountable to. Listen, for us as a staff, we've got certain days off. People have a certain amount of time off, and I will not, as the boss, I will never take advantage of that. I won't. I'm not going to ask our team to do something I'm not willing to do, because your team will never consistently embrace a standard you personally ignore. Culture will always follow leadership. I'm not going to ask our team to go clean a toilet if I myself am not. On a Sunday, I've unclogged multiple toilets. I would never ask a staff member to go unclog a toilet if I myself wasn't willing to. I'm not going to ask my staff to go empty the trash if I wasn't willing to empty the trash. When we first started Anchor Church, to this day, I have no problem taking trash out. I did it last week. I have no problem. So I don't mind asking the team to take the trash out. You know why? Because I'm willing to do it myself. Leaders who welcome accountability create teams that welcome accountability. So if you're a leader that receives accountability, then your team should receive accountability. Why? Because you're asking for it, so they should be approachable to it. And let me leave this little caveat here. I feel like sometimes when people say that you need accountability, you'll take accountability from everybody. I'm not saying that. You got to have trusted, valued people as the leader who are able to give you accountability. It's just not anybody that can give you accountability. As a leader, you need those trusted people that can speak into you when you need to be spoken into. You can't demand what you won't demonstrate. And the standard begins looking in the mirror. Imagine a football coach that always demands his team show up early for practice, yet the coach is always late for practice. His words are going to begin to lose authority. Why? Because he's not modeling what he's asking of his team. So think about this. Who has permission to hold you accountable? If you've got nobody in your life that's able to speak accountability into you, then you got to find that person, because every leader needs accountability. Every leader needs someone speaking into them to help them rise to the level of accountability they're asking and expecting from other people. Now, let's wrap it up. Principle number 6, when it comes to accountability that your team appreciates and doesn't resent. Number 6, celebrate progress as much as you correct problems. Celebrate progress as much as you correct problems. Romans 12:10. Paul says, honor one another above yourselves. Many leaders become excellent critics, but poor encouragers. And if you can't be a person on team that celebrates progress, but only corrects problems, that's going to be an issue for you. I worked for a guy years ago at a church. He was my boss. And the only time he ever called me or wanted to connect with me and take me to lunch is when I made a mistake. So I wouldn't hear from this guy for several weeks. I wouldn't talk to this guy or meet with this guy for several weeks. I was a lone ranger in ministry. But when I got a text from him or a call from him and he said, let's do lunch, I immediately knew I did something wrong. That shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't be a leader that only connects with your team when they make mistakes. You should be a leader that celebrates what your team is doing, lift them up, encourage them, and that gives you the opportunity and the respect to speak accountability into the problems that you see. If the only time your team hears from you is when they miss something, accountability becomes associated with disappointment. And that's when you start losing team members. Healthy accountability notices wins just as intentionally as it addresses weaknesses. So celebrate effort, celebrate growth, celebrate consistency, celebrate initiative, because encouragement fuels endurance. Encouragement allows you to have the voice of accountability. People repeat what gets recognized. Correction changes behavior, but celebration changes culture. And that's one of the things I know in my life I've got to be much better. I can step into a room and see all the things that are going on, all the things that are going wrong, but I got to be a leader that first recognizes the things that are going right. Don't only inspect what's wrong, celebrate what's going right. People grow where encouragement flows. And maybe there's not growth in your team right now, but maybe that's because you're not being a loving, enthusiastic encourager of the team. So begin to be that way. Think about how Jesus interacted with his disciples. Jesus told Peter to get behind me, Satan. So Jesus actually called Peter Satan. But he also said to him, you're a rock, and on you, Peter, I'm going to build my church. You see the difference? He's just not saying to him, get behind me, Satan. He's also speaking love and value in him by saying, you've got what it takes to build my church, and I believe in you because you're going to do it. Believe in your team. Encourage your team, and it allows them to speak correction into them as well, right? Accountability always points people to the future. So this week, intentionally recognize 3 people on your team. 3 people in your life. Intentionally recognize 3 people and speak growth into them by celebrating what they've done that's been great for your team. Find those. Think about it right now. Write their names out. Who are you going to text, call? Who are you going to speak life into that has done something excellent on your team? So let's wrap it up. Here's what I want to share with you today as we wrap up this lesson on accountability. Accountability your team appreciates and doesn't resent. People don't usually resent accountability. They resent inconsistency. And accountability has got to be consistent in the life of your teams. Otherwise, they begin to resent you, not because of the accountability, but because of the inconsistency of the relationship with the accountability. If one person's held accountable and another isn't, frustration builds on the team. If expectations change every week, trust erodes. If correction depends on personalities instead of principles, culture suffers. Healthy accountability is consistent. You know why? Because it's fair, it's timely, it's relational, and it's always connected to development. As leaders, our job isn't simply to manage tasks. Our job is to develop people. My job as the pastor of Anchor is not to manage tasks by our staff on a daily basis. It's to develop people. That's why accountability matters, because every difficult conversation today may become someone's breakthrough tomorrow. And so the accountability conversation you didn't have today, it's not going to impact their tomorrow because they won't know how to grow tomorrow. The impact today from the accountability today is going to impact their tomorrow. So here's your challenge this week. Are you ready? Think of one person on your team, not someone who's struggling, but someone you see with incredible potential. Schedule time with them. Celebrate what they're doing. Clarify one area they need to grow in. Offer them the support that they need to grow in that area, and then follow up. So I'm not going to take you to lunch today. I'm not going to have a conversation with you to beat you down or to bash you for what you've done wrong. You're doing an outstanding job. But I want to give you some help in some things I see in you that are going to be great in you. And I'm going to follow up with those things because I see more in you than you see in yourself. Because accountability is not one conversation. It's an ongoing commitment to help people become everything God created them to be. Remember this, what you expect gets started, but what you inspect gets sustained. Listen, great leaders don't use accountability to control people. They use accountability to develop people. And you and I are in the developing people business. So develop people. And when you live out an accountability and consistency on your team won't resent it. They'll appreciate it and they'll welcome it. Man, hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pastor's Playbook. Accountability. It's one of those things we've got to do. Give the expectations, but then be accountable to the follow through of them. We'll see you next week.